Deciding the public comment. No public comments. I need approval of the minutes for the October 1st meeting. Motion second. 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 Any questions or comments?
Were they corrected?
What?
Were the minutes corrected?
I can't understand you. Bob.
Nothing, I apologize. It's for another 7 minutes, sorry.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay. By the way, that voice I just heard is Steve Elser. He's somewhere. Okay, turn over you, Dave.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Crosley. We're here tonight for the facilities meeting, and I know that we only have an hour, but please forgive us, we're going to go over an hour. We have a lot to discuss tonight. We're going to get an update on where we're at with the senior high project. Looking forward, the next meeting scheduled after this meeting is November 6th. At that point, we'll have fine-tuned this plan, and we will ultimately be looking to have approval to leave the conceptual design into design development with a vote on the November 12th meeting. So with that in mind, please try to gather all your questions, ask the questions, get feedback so that you can ponder this for the next week or so, and then address any questions back to administration, and we'll get those to our professionals, and then we'll hopefully put the final touches on this for the November 6th meeting. So with that said, we just adjourned our project team meeting just about 50 minutes ago, so all this is very fresh in our minds, but we wanted to turn it over. We're going to start with Jay Clough from KCBA Architects.
Thank you. Get off to the side. We will be handing out no fancy pictures tonight. It's all going to be done with handouts, so you'll be able to take the information home and study it a little bit. What we will be giving you, first of all, is a site plan. And the reason this has some meaning, I know you've seen kind of a fancier picture site plan. Dewey will be going into great detail tonight about costs of the project. And in order to develop accurate costs for the project, I don't know where to stand it, isn't practice on a apologize. In order to develop very accurate costs, or as accurate as you can at a conceptual stage, to get a good handle on what the cost might be, our civil engineer went to the trouble to develop a kind of a conceptual look at site work. And what we've done on this sheet is we've colored those areas where the majority of work will take place. Beyond what's in this sheet, there were studies done of how to drain it, how to storm sewers, manholes, catch basins, seeding, sidewalks, fences, trying to get a really good idea. We will be speaking with the township and the borough this Friday in this building, but prior to that, trying to get kind of a really good idea of what site work might be required in order to try to stay within the budget that we've been given. Very, very quickly, North Monroe and 4th is up in the left-hand corner of the sheet. That's kind of in front of the school. The biggest change, as I described to you, I think before, is a large bus loop in front of the school. You'll see it's continuous. You'll see it's 3 buses wide. We have used this in other districts to answer any questions you might have. And with those buses staggered by 10 feet, excuse me, the students can all get to a bus safely. The buses stay parked until they receive some kind of a signal from somebody who's made sure that everybody is in and not between them. We can get them all in there with one bus run, or as you do now, you can stage them and go into 2. We're showing the most flexibility right now is having them all in there. The idea here is we would take out all the little jigs and jogs and all the things that go on in front of the school right now and clean that all up into one central sweep. We will fix the end down in the bottom so buses could return back to 4th and Monroe, or could go out to an extension of North Monroe Street, which we'll talk about in a minute. The salmon color shows the 2 additions. The arch swing is on the front, and down in the back corner toward the athletic fields is the gym and athletics wing. So this kind of sums up all the additions that were before. I think there were 8 of them total, are distilled down to 2. Most of the site work is out on the Monroe side street of the building. Moving on down to the next segment, if you will, kind of the center of the sheet, the extension of Monroe Street, which we think is very critical, and we think it's a very good idea to get that out to Montgomery Avenue, will go through the parking area at Bear Stadium. So that is showing a reconfiguration, that central area of the sheet, of the parking area at Bear Stadium, and the paving of the current stoned lot that's currently, that's the biggest lot that's near the ball field. If we move on down the sheet, very critical extension is then extending Monroe Street out to Montgomery Avenue. And again, this has been graded roughly and drained and everything, and those numbers will be reflected in numbers that Dewey will be providing for you later. It's certainly not a design, it's a concept. We certainly have to talk to the borough and the township, and we have that scheduled for Friday. But I think it's a good, solid kind of basis for actually determining what site work might be necessary on this project. There are some other things that don't show on this sheet, some relocation of some, there's a sanitary sewer main that's under the art wing that the borough has, some alternate resurfacing of some of the lots on the other side of the building and the like. But that's a real quick look at site work, and that's one of the key pieces. Are there any questions about that? We'll move on from there into the rest. Yes, ma'am.
Is there some significance to that line that goes down through the center with little blue arrows on the end?
There is a very big significance to that, and he did that on purpose. On one of the maps, that is shown as a floodplain, and really, it can't be a floodplain if it's been piped. So where we're gonna have a discussion with the, I guess this will be Colebrookdale Township, it is a big deal. If it's a floodplain, the approval period to work in a floodplain is 3 or 4 extra months and a lot of paperwork and a lot of shenanigans, when we believe that the zoning maps currently don't reflect the case that's there. So the blue arrow is saying, hey, that's a piped stream, therefore it's not a floodplain anymore. We're working in a developed area, the rules change a little bit, and that's why that is significant and why it is shown. This is identifying the key things that have to happen so that as we get involved, in addition to pricing, we can talk to the borough township.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So we can come back.
We'll come,
I mean, are these the existing fields now, the ones that are on here?
yes,
Okay.
we maintained existing fields
Right.
and did not prohibit the development of additional future fields. They would be where that north area is up on the back of the property there, as they were shown before. That's
Okay.
still, that option is, it's very carefully laced in there so we don't compromise fields.
Okay.
Okay, so for housekeeping purposes, if you wouldn't mind, just label, put a number 1 on that, so when we come back and there's questions, because we're gonna have a bunch of handouts, and we did not pre-label them for you, because we have been working on these.
They're still warm.
Till, all right, so if you just put a number 1 on that, because you're gonna get the next round of handouts. So this next one will be 2.
Thank you.
You're faster than I am. These go to the audience as well?
No, yeah, but they didn't get them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm supposed to keep going. I don't know how this is new to me, all this stuff. Here we go. I'll get it figured out by the time we get to the last.
All right, so while these slow handouters are moving, this, if you would label this one, if you would label this one 2A, if everyone would just label this one 2A, please, so that we don't, and the one that Jay's handing out, which is 8.5 by 11, we label it 2B. That was the second handout, 2A and 2B, okay? All right. So we're gonna work these side by side, so it's that one line. Put 2A and 2B side by side.
And then we'll take it through here. And then that's gonna be.
Okay? All right, we're gonna keep moving here, guys. So 2A and 2B, side by side. Now, what we did here, and first I wanna say, you know, Jay put this site plan out in front of you and reviewed it. And the goal has been to try to refine the scope, understand the scope as much as possible, so that we could translate that into a reasonable budget. At this very early, as was appropriately stated, at the concept stage. We're at a concept stage, so nothing has been designed, nothing's been approved. You know, there's still room to figure all this out a little bit more. There's still some questions that are gonna come up. Hopefully some will be in our favor, others won't be in our favor, you know, so there's still a lot of work that'll happen, but we believe at this point, with the information we've been able to gather on the scope, we have a reasonable budget. And that wasn't done overnight. There was a lot of effort, I have to say, by your team. I mean, I think it started with Dr. Faley, with Dave, and then Dr. Cooper. A lot of time on the program. So although you're seeing the site plan, you know, the focus is the program, and a lot of effort has been put into that. And that's what you're going to see here in terms of what the needs are to bring ninth grade and to run your academy programs and what have you. And then at another level, we've been working very closely with Paul and his staff on a detail level as to the guts of the building and some of those things, and Jay and the whole team. So that's how this is all coming together. So what I'd like to do is just orient you. If you look at the colored sheets, what you're going to notice is most of the building is colored green. And then on the borders of the green, you see what's a white color in some areas, okay? And the white is mainly, if you look at the 1920s, 1930s building at the corner of Monroe and 4th, you see a big white area. And then as you come across, you see what says maintenance, and there's white areas there. But then the most of the rest is all green. Now, white is the areas, now you have to look at the chart here, level 1 is white. And white is basically, we're basically not doing a whole lot of work in there except for the mechanical, electrical work that needs to be done to get that building operating consistently, okay? That's what we're doing with white. As you can see, majority of the building is green, and that's level 2. Level 2 is, again, very little finishes, very little reconfiguration occurring. Essentially, the new word for our team as of today, you remember I was talking about utilitarian? The new word now is frugal, okay? So green is in frugal zone, all right? Basically, that's the word we came up today, so I don't take credit for that one. That's our team's name. I forget who came up with it. I forget it was Dr. Faley or Paul or one of them. Maybe a combination of both. Maybe somebody said gull and someone said frugal, something like that. Okay, so green is very frugal. And I'll go through what we're doing in green, but the next level then is magenta. And the magenta you can see is the 1920s, 1930s building where we do have to do quite a bit of work. And then, as you're aware, the gym area that we're going to convert into the music suite, very heavy work. And then this front area here where we're going to create classrooms along the front as well as the admin suite. These are things that Jay described to you last time. So you can see we've broken it out into what are the areas of heavy work, green and white, which I'm calling frugal, and white, which is almost nothing, okay? And that's what we're focused on. And then we have the new construction, which we don't even label here because the new construction is this purple color, kind of purplish color. And that is obviously all new construction. It's going to be all new, okay? So there's not a whole lot we need to describe for you on that. So what I'd like to do is just sort of walk you through the scope, just so you have a basic understanding. This is a pretty thick document. I don't plan to go through every page, but I'm kind of going to give you the overall picture. So if we start very simply with the building envelope, which we call the exterior of the building. The one bullet point I'll point out to you, essentially on the building envelope, other than the roof, which we're replacing across the board, we're barely doing not much with the envelope of the exterior of the building. Okay, so the windows remain across the board. The masonry is going to look the same color, it's the same. We're going to do some patchwork here and there. We're going to fix some issues where there's some water entry issues. But essentially the envelope stays the same. Okay? other than the areas where the new additions will go, you know, it'll be the same building that you currently have essentially, okay? It'll have a new roof on it. Okay, so that takes you through essentially the first page, if you will. So if you flip over, we go to the interior wall finishes, and you can help me, John, if I'm missing anything of importance or Jay here. Okay, so the next one is interior wall finishes. Now, wall finishes, as I said, level 1, you see no check marks. Level 2, you see a few check marks, and all we're doing there is some touch-up work where it's necessary. Level 3, we are doing all new finishes for the most part, and you know, the same in the 1920, 1930 buildings. So those areas will get new finishes because they're being reconfigured for the most part. Okay, so that's interior. Floor finishes are the same thing as what I just said above. You can see hardly any check marks. So you're barely doing anything in level 1, level 2, and level 3 and magenta for 1920, 1930 buildings. We're doing a lot in finishes in there. Okay, so that gets you through the second page. All right, now you're welcome to read each one of these, but I'm just kind of giving you the overview. Okay, so that takes you all the way to, we're on page 3, and we start, I'll take you all the way, we've talked all the way through number 13. So, you know, you go down the hallways, we're maintaining the corridor, ceramic tiles, whatever. Where we cut, we're gonna patch and fix, but that's about it. Now you get to it says the interior ceiling finishes. And essentially across the board, we're gonna get new ceilings. Okay, so there'll be new ceilings everywhere. And the reason for that is it's all new sprinkler systems, all new mechanical systems above the ceilings, and it's just gonna be not very practical to try to say we're not gonna touch the ceiling. So, okay? So that basically gets you through there. Under interior construction, on the bottom of page 3, you know, again, everything is pretty much staying. We're not touching a whole lot there. We're gonna add some walls. If you flip over to the next page, corridor walls shall be CMU. We're gonna keep that. Where we're adding new partitions, and that's one thing we talked about today, the new partitions where we're adding them, they're going to be steel stud and mold resistant, you know, drywall. We're not adding block walls. We don't have the budget to put block walls in all of these new partition areas we're doing. Although we would prefer that, I know the administration would prefer that. So, just information, okay? So that's essentially it, where we do, on the bottom, where the chemistry labs, where we're renovating them, they'll get new casework, so they work with the program. All right?
Yes.
Like-
But
Yes, sure.
why is the preference for block walls versus, you said the others were?
Drywall, stud wall.
Drywall with
With
wall
metal
rails?
studs.
No.
Yeah.
So is the preference in terms of fire,
Do-
safety,
It's
sound?
It's
what?
more, I mean, safety, fire-wise, you know, they're all fire rated and all that, that's, and the building will be fully sprinkled, so it's not safety, it's more of a durability, maintainability issue. You know, like a drywall, they can put a hole in it.
Right. What we had talked about, I mean, preferably, the block walls are easier to maintain because it takes a lot to destroy a block wall, where the gypsum board, you know, which is what you'll probably find in your house, you can easily, you know, drive a pencil through it or something like that, and kids will be kids. And our concern from administration was that it's gonna require more maintenance, that every summer, instead of, you know, just wiping down the concrete block walls, we might have to go in and replace entire pieces of wallboard.
Now, we're not using traditional gypsum wallboard like you have in a home construction. This is a new wallboard. It's called abuse resistant. So it's much more stronger, much stronger than traditional, but not nearly as strong and abuse resistant as a concrete block would be.
Now, the good news also is, we're not adding a ton of it. Okay, if you see, that's only happening in the purple areas, wherever we're adding them. So,
And really on interior rooms, corridor walls where they get more abuse would be CMU, where there is new corridor construction going on.
but that's the kind of example that I think you can relate to, and I appreciate you bringing the question.
My question is, they're not bearing walls, of course, right?
What's that?
They're merely partitions, they're
Correct.
not bearing walls.
Not bearing.
So they don't have to be blocked.
Right.
They don't have to be correct. Okay, so now we go down and A majority of this project is MEP scope of work, okay? And you'll see that as we get to the budget costs and summary. So on the bottom, you can see we've got level 1 renovations. Essentially, all the new sanitary and storm underground piping in level 1, level 2, and level 3 would remain, okay? We have an option, later on, we're gonna talk to you about in a certain section of the building, where we're recommending possibly replacing some of that underground piping because of our concerns with the condition, and we're gonna do some investigations to further verify that in a minute. We'll talk to you about that. But generally, anything under the slab, we're leaving, other than in the 1920 to 1930 section of the building where we are replacing. Okay, there's no, I'm not telling you that to scare you, I'm just telling you that to point it out to you, because there could be, as you develop the scope further along, areas where you might need to do that. You know, you go to tie into a section of line and you find that, you know, it's got a belly in it or a dip in it or whatever. Certainly it's a reasonable thing to do at this stage, but it's not, you know, some projects we go on and we've got check marks on this when you're dealing with, you know, full renovation, okay? Sorry.
Okay, to check them with a camera?
We're going to do exactly that. 1 second. Yes, perfect. You're ahead of us. Thank you. So that's just, and the existing plumbing fixtures, that's a big item under number 3 to recognize. In level 1 and level 2, and level 2, as you can see, is most of the building, the plumbing fixtures remain. And they're remaining because, number 1, they're functional and they appear to be fine. But if we decide to go to LEED, and we'll come back to that, if we decide to pursue LEED to actually get the certificate and pursue LEED, we're going to have to replace those plumbing fixtures, and you're going to see a big ticket line item for doing that, okay? The same would apply if you flip the page over. HVAC is not an issue because you can see HVAC's got check marks across the board, okay? So that's not an issue. But the same is applicable if you come to lighting. If you see on number 1, it says light fixtures to remain in all spaces. And in level 2, we're saving all of the existing lighting. You guys did do a lighting project, and you have fairly good lighting in there. But if we were going to pursue LEED, all those light fixtures would have to be upgraded. And that's another big ticket item. Okay, so currently they're, under the schedule, they're scheduled to remain in a lot of the green areas. In the hallways in the green areas, they'll be replaced. Because in the hallways, we didn't think it was salvageable for the scope of work we're going to do down the hallways with piping and stuff, okay? But in the classrooms, the light fixtures will remain. We're also recapitalizing on the fact that you have fairly good infrastructure. When you do a renovation project, Jay and I were talking about this, you know. Part of the reason for this checklist and to show it to you is because afterwards, it's easy to go back afterwards and say, well, you did this, why didn't you do that? Well, you did this, why didn't you do that? The reason you do a renovation project is because you want to reuse as much of your existing infrastructure and systems as possible. If you didn't want to do that, and you just said you want to replace it all, you may as well build it. Okay? So the reason you're doing it is because you want to get more light and use your existing systems that can give you some light beyond what the current time period is. But it doesn't mean you won't have to replace your light fixtures later on. It doesn't mean you won't have to replace your plumbing fixtures later on, but it won't be under this project. It'll hopefully be 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Okay?
Can I back up a little bit?
Sure.
The check mark here means that you're not going to do anything about it. Is that, am I reading it right?
They vary. Some say they're going to, it's a little bit tricky. We were trying to make it very simple. So some of them, like in this case, you're absolutely right. It says light fixtures to remain, okay? So in level 2 it remains, but in level 3 we're getting new light fixtures, correct? In that case, you're right. But remember before, when I told you windows to remain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody had a check mark, so that means windows are, so it was a reverse, you know? I mean, you just gotta read the text. So it could be both ways. The check mark
All right,
doesn't.
that's I was going through here, I had one impression, and all of a sudden, my impression changed.
Yes.
And
You have to read it.
You changed the ground rules.
Well, it became very difficult because if I try to list everything that's in it, it was difficult. I was trying to highlight things that I thought would be of importance to know. You know, so it gets tricky. Sometimes you're just telling people we're not replacing the windows.
Just the way you phrase it, the comment here is a check mark, yes or no.
On that line item.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I should have clarified. It's a good point, very good point, though.
Yeah.
You have to read each item because some are reversed, okay? It's a good point. All right, so then as you go down, you can see the communication and, I was talking about the panels, the distribution panels, electrical distribution panels, and all that wiring, some of it that's new, will be reused and won't be just arbitrarily replaced, okay? Communication systems will be all brand new, as well as the fire protection system, okay? Under equipment and furnishings, again, I'm on the bottom of page 5. You know, essentially, they'll be, in the classrooms, the casework will stay the same. Casework is the cabinetry and stuff like that. That's item 1. You can see the only place we have a check mark where we get new is in the 1920, 1930 section, okay? If you flip the page over, you'll see essentially, again, very few check marks in level 1 and level 2, and more in level 3 in the 1920, 1930 building area, okay? So essentially, as I said, in the green area, a very frugal, basic MEP renovation scope. So if you flip over to
Reeve, in number 4 on page 6,
Yes.
we did end up putting an extra check mark under the 1920, 1930. So
Yeah.
if you could put a check mark in that second line down under the 1920, 1930 magenta.
Correct. These are all draft documents, so we're hoping to get some input. That's a very good pickup. And the version that you will eventually get, hopefully in another 2 weeks, less or whatever, is going to have whatever edits you give us, whatever decisions you make today, and some of the pickups we made earlier today. Thank you. So that's it on the first page. I mean, I could go through those, but essentially, you can see there's very little scope there. If you go to page 7, we want to point out, even under the, for example, the library, casework is to remain, meaning the library will remain as is. It'll have new, I think the library will have new ceilings, correct? John?
That's correct.
And that's it, no new lights, right?
The carpet.
And new carpet.
And new carpet.
in that area. So that's the kind of, frugal, utilitarian type renovation that we're pursuing, okay? Under equipment, some of this equipment, we do have a line item, and I'll show you the soft cost. So we do have a line item for some new technology, projectors, there'll be some opportunity for furniture. We have some line item for new kitchen equipment. So, we are redoing some of the guts and some of the big technology that you need to keep with your program. Okay? The next line at the bottom is the demo, and the demo and selected demo sort of matches up with the scope I said, so I'm not going to belabor it. But then if you really want to read a lot, you can read on page 8 and 9 and 10, and there's some more details on the HVAC as well as the site work is broken out in detail there. So I'm not going to necessarily read through all of that. But essentially, the takeaway from this is, as I said, green is the most of it, and white, and most of it gets very little finishes, as you would, okay? It's gonna be some guts in there, and that's the primary scope. And then, as you can see, they've done an excellent job of limiting the new construction. It's very limited, the magenta, or blue, thank you, and then the pinkish magenta, whatever you wanna call that. Again, very, limited again. So that's how we've been able to repurpose the funds that you want to allocate for this project and find the right way to effectively use them. Okay, now there's a lot of work, value engineering and other things we're going to do moving on to stay with that, but we've got a team that's focused on managing this project. So that's 2A and 2B. We're going to now jump, unless there's questions.
I got a question.
Sure, yeah.
On the roof covering,
Yes.
says tear off of existing roof and insulation in renovated areas, you're not doing the whole thing?
The whole building is renovated. The whole building is theoretically
And
renovated.
you're going with a single ply?
Under the base bid, It is only we can only afford a single ply right now. I will show you in a list here, we have options to upgrade, and that's a decision. That one's actually an easy one, because that's a decision you could defer until bid day. We could take a bid alternate for a built-up roof, which is the preferred one again. And you could, defer that decision until you see all of the numbers and make a final decision. But we have an estimate for you as to what that would add if you choose to decide you want to do it now, as opposed to wait till bid day.
Single ply doesn't have much of a life, so it doesn't.
Well, this one would be a 20-year total system warranty, and we're talking about, I think we were talking about 100 or 90 mil. We're talking about a heavier single ply.
Yeah, either
But it
60
is
mil
single-
reinforced or 90 mil.
Well, I think we're talking about 90
Yeah,
mil.
90 mil.
I think that's what we were talking about, a 90 mil reinforced adhered membrane, which is not as good as a building. I mean, what can I tell you?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. What he's talking about for everybody else is a single ply is one membrane is what protects your roof. A built-up has multiple plies that are either hotted down typically or glued down in some other fashion, and so you get more redundancy with a built-up.
Overlap.
Correct. More redundancy.
The lifetime of a single ply versus build-up.
Would be anywhere from 10 to 15 years more, possibly. And the built-ups, you can usually reinvigorate them. You can get more life out of them with coatings and other things versus a single ply. You can do coatings on them too these days.
What's on the building right now? Is it build-up?
I don't know what's on the ply. Single ply right now?
It is single ply.
That's what
The
Paul
entire
does.
building, huh?
Most of it,
Yeah.
yeah. Three-story has a built-up. Okay? All right, good questions, good stuff, you guys are getting it. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one, which is 3. This next one, label it 3, please. But I'm trying to keep it simple. I think, we met earlier, as we said, and we kind of came up with this concept for walking you through it a little bit, because I know a lot of information. 3. Okay, so handout 3 is just to give you an idea of where we stand with the lead process. And I know Jay will be happy to add some comments here, but what I wanted to kind of just frame out for you is some semblance and give you an order of magnitude of the cost impact for pursuing lead. Currently, you are eligible for Plan Con, and if we look at the currently submitted Plan Con D form, that makes you eligible if you get lead silver. And notice that it's critical, it has to be lead silver. You're eligible for another $871,000. That's the number on top. Now that's paid out over the bond life, so we're keeping this very simple here, so that it's more complicated than that, okay? If you remember, I pointed out to you that we would have to go through and replace all the water fixtures, all the plumbing fixtures, because there's a prerequisite to meet a certain water reduction number, I think it's 20%. And you can't do that with your current fixtures. So you'd have to replace your fixtures. We were joking around that most kids, I think Paul mentioned, they don't find that shower these days, they don't wash their hands, they don't even flush the toilet. So we're already saving, but it doesn't work that way. Okay, we gotta actually take care of the fixtures. So, we can't really do that without spending approximately $750,000, okay? There is, what's required is a fundamental commissioning, so you have to do an independent third-party commissioning. Person has to do some commissioning. And this is over and above the testing and balancing and regular things we would do for the building. So that's approximately $150,000.
Explain what that is.
Commissioning is basically making sure everything works properly, but they want an independent third party to do that, as opposed to the way we would propose to do it here. We'd have an independent testing, adjusting, balancing person who would verify that with us that the contractors are commissioning and meeting the specification requirements. So it's just another layer to add on top. Which, I mean, I'm not saying, by the way, when I'm pointing out these numbers, we're not saying whether this is, I'm not pointing out that this is just money that we're not getting value for. I'm just pointing out that it is money, okay? We can talk about the value you get for each one of these separately, and Jay can talk a little bit about that too, but I'm just pointing out that it's money. So I'm not saying this is bad to replace the fixtures. There's probably some benefits in the long run. I'm not saying that commissioning would not be money well spent, maybe, but it's money, okay? Sometimes you have to just, that's what I'm trying to show you first, okay? We can talk about that second.
I got a question on that.
Sure.
You want to reduce the water usage, but we're bringing 700 more people into the area. How can you reduce, are you going by the existing, what we're using, and then how does that formula work?
Well, they do it, like I said, based on fixtures. So if you have fixtures and the fixtures have a certain gallon per flush and what have you, you actually do it based on number of fixtures, which is based on occupants. So it doesn't matter if you have more, it's really,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
We are using more because we're bringing more students, you're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But it's really focused on the building's ability to cut down, okay?
All right, thank you.
Right.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Are we gonna be using any place or replacing spigots or in the bathrooms and all, are we gonna use the ones that shut off automatically?
Currently, we're not, that's why I said currently we're not replacing them, but if we did do this, that's absolutely one of the things we'd probably do.
Well, there's some that you probably will.
Yes, in the new sections where we're doing, where we are,
So are we using them there?
in the
Any place that
bathrooms,
we
we
have to
probably
do?
are,
Yeah, we'll
yes.
be using
We- In the
Any
new
place
bath,
that
to
we
meet the
have to-
codes. That's
correct.
The
If we
spigots
build
like
a new toilet
How
room,
about-
it'll have all the water saving features that LEED asked for. The problem is LEED asked us to go back to the existing building.
Right.
all the locker rooms.
But if we build new facilities, we will have that. We will use the low flow, we will use the automatic shut off, we will use all those features.
And we'll be using, instead of paper towels, the air?
Right now,
We're doing that anyway.
Right.
We're gonna add those anyway. Those we are. I
All
think-
over?
I think we have
Yeah.
those everywhere, yeah.
That was in the budget. You can
That,
go
we
through the
did
score
add,
sheet.
we did add dryers to every place. Hand dryers, that's what you mean? Yeah, we are adding those as a separate item.
It just runs our electric bill off, the other spigots drop our water bill.
That's always what happens with
There's
the.
not as many paper towels, I don't know. We could, that's still a decision you can make and decide not to do that and stick with paper towels if you wanted to. You would. That's
Thank
not a
you.
big issue. So the next item is very tricky, which is the minimum energy performance, okay? Now, with an existing building, what we're saying, and the reason we're saying TBD on that, TBD stands for to be determined, I can't give you a number on that, because to meet the LEED silver, we have to get, I think we were trying to target 6 or 7 points out of the HVAC kind of design itself. And the only way to do that, because we're not replacing, you have to remember, what they compare you to is the building ASHRAE model. And the ASHRAE model is for a new building. And you have to decrease your energy use by X number of percentage to get certain number of credits. Now, they do give you an offset because you're an existing building, so your percentages of reduction don't have to be as high because you're an existing building, so they recognize that. But we're not replacing windows. Our thermal envelope, other than the roof, is staying the same. We're not replacing the lighting. One of the biggest areas you can save is light fixtures. The new light fixtures are basically very low watts per square foot, which means they produce very little energy and give you the same amount of light, okay? And the energy results in increased air conditioning costs. It helps you in heating, so, okay, but it hurts you in AC, all right? So we can't determine that, but we do know that in order for us to meet that, we'd at least have to replace the lights. And I'll show you that number in a minute, and I think that number is close to 600,000.
550.
Yeah. So if we had to go in all the green and replace the lights, that would be another 600, that 550. Okay?
The air conditioning,
Yes, sir.
is that gonna be changed?
Yes,
It's currently a two-pipe system. Is it gonna be changed?
that's the goal,
It's
correct.
gonna remain two?
No, the goal is to be 4 pipes. That'll be a separate meeting, we'll talk to you about the HVAC, but in general, right now I can tell you, we're looking towards, with the budget we have, we're gonna have a fairly, efficient system, all new equipment, new chillers, new boilers, new terminal equipment. Terminal equipment is the equipment that actually sits in each room, air handlers. All of that will be new controls. And each classroom will have its own unit. And we're talking about the best option, there's some site visits planned, and we're in preliminary, early stages of figuring out exactly what that is. But it will not be a two-pipe.
All right, thank you.
Unless you wanted to and you want to save money.
What? I'm not sure it
We'll get to
saves
that
us
in-
money.
Like that. 4-pipe allows you to heat and cool at the same time, depending on the size of the building.
It's not a good idea.
It's old technology, 2-pipe.
How about the more efficient ballasts they have today? Can't we just save money by changing ballast instead of the entire lighting system?
Well, you have already done that, so you have
Some of
decent
it.
yeah, you have decent ballast, but where you pick up the lighting efficiency, I'm not a lighting designer, but I know enough to be dangerous. You have to start with pendant light fixtures, and you have to be able to transfer the lighting up and down, and you get more diffusion of lighting, so you use less fixtures. So it's not just the ballasts by themselves, it's the number of lamps and the number of fixtures. That's where you're gonna save on, and what you're talking about is, you can see your square footages in a minute, I'll show you, I didn't show you that yet, but you're talking about, the green is over 200,000 square feet. I mean, so we're not talking about small amounts, that
Right.
just multiplies very quickly, okay?
Again,
So-
the new lighting that we install will meet all those standards. We'll do that.
Right. So then there's the next one, which is the minimal acoustical performance. Now, that one's another challenging one, because the HVAC system might also have to be upgraded or be isolated in closets or do other things to meet the acoustical performance requirements to meet with leak. And that I don't even have a number for you yet, so, if you want to put a number, I don't know, say another $500,000, okay? But I'm not gonna, I didn't write it down, I didn't say it.
Everybody else did. You're the only one who didn't.
And then, so, we need these additional points, and you'll see at the bottom is I don't have a net cost, but you can just see that we're already probably in spending money to reach LEED. Now, the beauty of it is we have a scorecard here for you on the second page, which is in color, and what I would point out to you is if you look on the top left-hand corner, see where it says yes? We think it's fairly easy for us to get 41 points, okay? But you see the question mark of 38, and then the no of 31, okay? So, I need to go, now keep going across. Certified is 40 to 49 points, so you're already certified if everything works out. But that doesn't give you the $871,000. I need to be in silver. So I need to be between 50 and 59 points to get the $871,000. So that's why you see, I need to go find another 10 points, or 9 at least. Hopefully around 12 or 13, because some of them you don't actually get, even though you think you're gonna get.
Hence the note.
Right.
Yeah.
Note, most projects lose between 2 to 4 points during submission process. So we need at least about 15 of those 38. And when you go down, and if you really want to drill down into this, I've pointed out to you some of the challenges already. So what we would recommend, if you want, is we can continue to keep the scorecard for you to show you that, we're pursuing all of the sustainable things, but not lock yourself into those requirements unless you can afford it, which I don't know that, unless you direct us differently today, that's what you're going to tell us. But certainly that's your decision.
I'm getting confused. I thought we were looking at a $2 million grant. Now you're saying 871?
Okay, there's two separate things, very good point, thank you, I didn't point that out. So, this is the reimbursement through PlanCon, 871. You've separately applied for a $2 million grant. Great question.
That's different, in addition to.
That would be
That's
in addition
different. That would be in addition, if you got that, it might be changing the game, but it would also change, go back to that other sheet, you now have to go from silver to gold. That grant tells you you have to be LEED gold,
Right.
okay? So now you have to
But
go
we'd
into the
still-
60,
But we'd still get the 2 million plus the 871.
if you got the LEED gold.
Yes.
And if you got the grant, which I don't believe you got.
Was it turned down or was
I
it
I have
looked
received,
at, or
I have
was it-
received nothing that said it was declined. It's still basically in limbo.
Can we ask if we had a date when it was gonna be looked at?
I have sent them at least one email a week asking them to please update us on the status. My belief is as long as I don't get a denial letter, we're still in the running. But I've heard nothing that we can approve.
That's important for this project.
It is.
But the thing is, you'd have to go all the way to gold,
I know,
which means
Right.
now,
but we're not at 2 million yet, with the number you gave us. And then you'd have to tell us what more we have to add financially. It might kind of be a wash or almost.
Probably.
it could get there.
So if that was the case, we'd be foolish not to do it.
But if you could get the grant, it would probably make sense.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It would save us.
You'd probably be
money.
close to a wash once you save money as you, but you'll operate at savings anyway. We're gonna give you a pretty efficient building, so some of it, you will get some of the advantage. The new mechanical system will be far more efficient than the old one. It just isn't way more efficient than it takes to get these points. There's a difference. You're way out there now with a really old one, so you're gonna come way up the continuum and get way more efficient, but not as far as LEED would like you to go. LEED wants you to stretch. It wants you to push a little bit beyond what you would normally do.
Well, we'll do it. They give us the money.
I understand that. I don't
We'll
know.
have to read that whole HVAC.
And you would be able to tell us additional costs to go to gold at
Well,
some point? Or-
Yes, once the energy bonding starts, we can give you that information, but I think the whole HVAC system would have to be revamped.
Yeah, what I was gonna say, what we currently have designed won't meet gold standard.
And we have, I can show you, we have $30 a square foot factored in for HVAC. And to do this, we'd have to build closets, we'd have to relocate the equipment.
So we're not putting them in closets now in the rooms?
We weren't planning on, we have a system that is being proposed that be these stand-up units in the classroom, they would all be ducted in the room, there'd be 4 pipe, but they would not be in separate closets. We don't have the budget to do that.
Okay, and then before they were though, just so my head's clear. With the old.
I don't know
I
what
don't
they
think
were
they got
before.
that far before. I don't know if they got that.
They weren't,
Were they? Normally in a geothermal, you would.
Weren't they, Paul, in the closet, in the classroom, in the closets?
We were debating back and forth on whether we could achieve the noise criteria for LEED with the unit that we were looking at without putting it in a closet, and there was a big debate going on. We never got a final resolution.
But we got a price on it, for the resolution.
A price on what?
well, we were, I mean, if you want to go back.
Arif, I think it's important, it's important to point out that even with the grant, the $2 million grant, to achieve gold status, I don't want anyone to leave this meeting this evening to think that we're not going to have to put more dollars into the project in order to get that status.
Yeah, I think I can
So it would go from a $55 million plus project much higher.
Correct. I think I can shed some light.
What you just said,
What's that? I'm sorry.
it would be about a wash, very close to it.
3 million?
Yeah, so I don't
Well,
understand what you're saying.
if you could get the 3 million.
Right, right.
Two.
He's saying it's gonna be
2
much.
and, well, 2 plus the 1.
2
Well, no,
plus 8.
the eight we've already used, okay?
You
And I got,
just to get-
then I
just to play the game.
gotta do lighting, okay? I gotta do the lighting, I gotta put that in, and I gotta get more points with my HVAC system,
Right.
which I don't know how to do yet.
And we
You have
may
to do
have-
all new fixtures.
we may end up having to do some insulation or some windows that we wouldn't normally do. What I've emailed, and I'm trying to be sustainable. We did not run hard copies of this, but Dave Zablowski has it. It was prepared for Boyertown, for this project. And I can either have him email it to you, or we can print copies. There's a 63-page study that was done by our lead consultant of how to get there. And it gives us the options of points, and eventually we could put dollar signs on each of the points. And it's very telling. What it says is you have to do the prerequisites, or you don't even get to go pick the rest of the points. And what it kind of says, in so many words, and that's what LEED does, you spend more money on day one to save it later.
Right.
And that makes sense. If we're stuck with the budget that we're stuck with, we don't have the money unless the grant comes through. If the grant comes through, we got a shot. We still don't know until we go through the book. It's fascinating to read. They tell you each point, what are the odds, which ones they don't recommend we even try for. It's kind of fun. And these people are really good. We love to do LEED, they love to do LEED. So it's not a biased report. And you can certainly all go through it. And I'd encourage you to have fun and read it. It's interesting. But
If we would go to some of those lengths and get rid of fixtures and all kinds of other things, is there a market out there to sell those?
Not really, because nobody, it's the same reason you don't want them, nobody else does.
No, I just asked because.
No, I understand.
Well, they'd be recycled. but
Yeah, that's part of the
not to
point.
sell.
Yeah, they get recycled, and that's part of the points in separating the trash.
Get
and the-
something back for recycling, but
Right,
not.
right.
But let me, if I could, one other point, I just, we're both, I'm not here to tell you not to pursue LEED. I'm here to tell you that your budget, it's like I said on the sheet before, I'm not telling you there's not value in those. I'm a lead AP, John's a lead AP, he pursues LEED, he's got lead people on the team. If you want to do LEED, we think it's a good thing, because what it does is, as a third party, what it does is, here's what I tell people, it makes you not compromise, because you've got to get that point. So, if you go through the design, and sometimes, you've got things and you compromise a little bit, well, why do you compromise? Primarily for budget reasons. People don't compromise, just because they're not good people. They compromise because they can't afford it, right? You go and, you want the navigation package in the car, but you decide, I'll buy the aftermarket car. You compromise, right? Okay? So I'm just telling you, we're not suggesting that you don't pursue LEED. What I'm suggesting to you is if you can't afford it, which right now I don't believe you can, if you start getting the grant, you might come back into the game a little bit. But I don't know that you're anywhere in the grant game because other people are getting notification and you didn't. I mean, I don't want to be smart about it, but people that were getting it have been notified. I showed you the list, right? So the fact that you didn't get it doesn't mean you're, I don't think they're rejecting you, but they also haven't told you you got it.
I also want to clarify that we could go down this road and do some of the things to get in the game, so to
Right.
say, and then
Not yet.
not get it.
Right.
So that's a lot of money to.
We'll push you over here.
So what I was gonna suggest though is keeping the LEED scorecard is fairly easy. But what I was trying to point out to you is this guy does this for a living. I've looked at it in detail. We do it somewhat for a living. And you can see your points are, I mean, it's not easy to jump, from 41 to 20, another 20 points. It's a lot of points. It's not gonna be that easy. It's going to require some big dollars, and I can't give you all the numbers right now, but there's some big dollars, and there's some big decisions. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So, because I'm thinking, we're looking at November 12th,
Yep.
because that's when, so if we don't hear anything, about this LEED thing, because there's no way we're gonna go out there and put the money into this and then not get a $2 million grant to offset it. That would be kind of foolish on our part. So we're really, unless we push that date back, but if we don't hear from them, then I guess we're assuming that we're not gonna go through with the LEED, unless I'm wrong in this, because once we vote on the 12th.
Not unless you want to spend the money.
Yeah, well, and I'm not saying spend that up front. What I'm saying is if we don't hear from that grant, November 12th, we vote. that's what we go with, whatever we select then on November 12th. Am I
Okay.
correct?
But there's a clarification here. You're saying we're not going for gold lead.
Right.
Currently, we're
We're on silver.
certified
Well, we
lead.
may be, what this is this is the target chart.
Right,
we
but
think we can get there.
currently, we currently pretty much can be certified, like LEED certified building.
Well, no, there's two caveats to that. One is we've got to spend, we've got to take care of the fixtures,
The prerequisite has to be,
right?
Okay.
We've got to do the light fixtures probably,
right.
and we've got the acoustic thing hanging over our head.
And that's just to be certified.
Right.
Right.
There are prerequisites before you can even go after the other points.
Okay, so we have the points, but we don't have the actual equipment in place.
You would need to replace the plumbing fixtures to get even, to start the process. Because they're saying as a prerequisite, you have to fix the plumbing.
And the mechanical engineer is telling us for his model to work, all the light fixtures would have to be. So those are two big items. And the third one I'm really worried about is, you know, whether you accept the mechanical system as the right solution for you or not. If I have to add another value of the acoustical performance, it's gonna add another change to it.
Just so you know that you will have, anything we put in new will be sustainable. We're gonna do that. And anytime we put in a product, we're gonna be there. And you are somebody, you guys kind of, you did do some of your lighting work. You're not working with lighting as old as that building. I think it was 6 or 7 years ago. You replaced the lighting. So it's not that you're in the dark ages. It really matters a lot. Well, it matters a lot. 1930s building, you're gonna be fine because we're gonna cut that all out. So you're gonna be fine there. And in those areas that, I guess it was magenta, you're gonna be fine because we're gonna take care of that, but it won't get you a plaque on your front door. So you gotta keep it in perspective. Those will at least be operable and workable, no matter what. But Dave should get you the report, so you know that we are not trying to force feed. It's kind of neat. It tells you each point, what your odds are getting it, what would be a good thing, not such a good thing. And it was done specifically, it's not boilerplate, it was commissioned by us for you, as part of our fee. So we're anxious for you to understand and see and know what's going on. And it's kind of really fun. But LEED wants you to do things that you would not normally do when you build a building. That's why they invented the system.
Well, this next phase might help you determine if you want to
Can I
go
ask
there.
a question before you go so far?
Yeah.
On this chart here,
Yes, sir.
there's a column marked pipe, and there's some Cs and some Ds. What the heck is that?
Point, okay, it's required, C is, C is construction. Oh, that's what they are. Cs are, you can submit them in construction, after construction. Ds, you can submit these for design. So at the end of design, you can submit, all the ones with a D you can submit and get a determination if you got them at the end of design. The ones that say C, you can't even submit till you're done with construction.
Okay.
That's what those are.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Right? Because you can do the submission twice, like in design. That way you kind of know where you are before you go into construction, and if you have to tweak your point.
Yeah, they recommend that you don't wait till the end, because if you miss it, you miss it. So they're saying, hey, as soon as it's designed, go take a look and see if you're on the right path.
Okay? So, can I move to the
Any
next
questions?
set of handouts?
I guess I would just say that what I'm getting from this conversation is it's not gonna be worthwhile to spend the money, to try to get back what you might not get. Is that correct?
Well, upfront costs, you know, that's the thing, you know, I didn't say you're not getting value, but if you don't have that upfront money and someone's not gonna help you with that upfront money, why am I gonna start talking to you about what the value is 5 or 6 years down the road with this stuff? You know, now if you wanna talk about, that's what I said, I'm not telling you those that don't have value, but if you decide you don't want to exceed that upfront cost that you're trying to tell us, then what do you want me to tell you?
Oh, we don't, but you've got the budget from us, what you want us to spend.
Yeah, I'm already not quite there.
So, to me, I mean, this is a waste. It's not gonna happen. As far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Another question here.
Well, I think the key is, it could happen if we get the grant, but besides that, do you have any estimate what the payback period would be if they did all these wonderful things?
Yeah, that's a great question, and from the HVAC standpoint, the best way to do it would be, again, through the energy model, because if you look at the scorecard, okay, look, I mean, the way to get points, to me, the reason to do LEED is not all of these others, but go down on the left side, see where it says energy and atmosphere?
Yeah.
It says 33 points, okay? 33 points you get for that category alone. And look down there, under where it says 17 points, and it's in red, and it says optimized energy efficiency performance, and go across the right, and see the 19 there by the D? Everyone see that? You can get 19 points for optimizing energy performance. Every percent you increase in energy performance on your design, you get an extra credit. And every one of those percentage points you improve the HVAC system design translates to utility savings. So can I give you a number for that? No, but every one is gonna have a big impact. That's where you're gonna see it. You know, the water, I hate to say it, but in this area, water is cheap, you know? I mean, I'm not being smart about it, but, you know, we're not gonna save 750, if I spend $600,000 in fixtures, am I gonna give you a payback of that water? I doubt it. Real dollars? No. I mean, we could talk about it, but in real dollars would never turn into real savings because water is cheap. I'm telling you. Around here, water is cheap. I've done it in Lehigh Valley, I'll never pay back $700,000 in water savings. Energy? Yes. You know, especially if energy rates go up. But if energy rates go up, you'll be saving more here, but everywhere else you'll be paying more. I don't know, you want that, which do you want, you know? So yes, the answer is there will be paybacks individually, but if you go down sustainable site, well, what payback am I gonna give you in the sustainable site there? I don't think anything. Water efficiency, we talked about that. Energy and atmosphere, yep, I can save you in utility costs. Materials and resources, you're gonna get 7 points there. What's your payback on that? Recycled content, recycled materials, I don't know. Can you tell me what's the payback? Is there one? I don't think so. But I mean, that's how you boil it down. Indoor environmental quality, well, the payback is you don't have any issues. You have good environmental quality, but I can't give you a dollar value for that. Innovation in design, no payback for that. It's some cool stuff.
So I guess the point is, when we get to November 12th, we have several weeks left to navigate through some very difficult decisions.
Yeah.
You'll have a recommendation from me as to what is the best approach, and the group,
Yeah.
what is the best approach given what we know, to have a sustainable building, or to have a LEED certified building,
Right.
depending on what the information is.
Well, it's gonna, I think Dr. Fagan's direction would be LEED gold.
LEED gold, excuse me.
Because otherwise I think we're already saying the silver, if we hit it, we're still in the hole. And I think what we're being asked here is if we get the grant, you've gotta go to gold.
And I would agree with the read that there is value in silver and there's value in gold.
Right.
But reality is, what I know and what you probably know as well, you're gonna have a more upfront costs
Correct.
to get there. And the savings realization is gonna factor out over time
Yep.
and perhaps get lost in some conversation. Because you're not focused on, not that we're not focused on utility savings, but if we push a project up to $60 million to achieve gold and then have that payback over 10 or 15 years, it's not as noticeable.
Okay, I think this will come all full circle here on the last set of handouts.
Independent of the numbers.
Huh?
Independent of the budget.
Yeah. It's good news, I mean, in a way, it's good news, so,
This time I won't score, I'll just follow you.
Follow me along.
Oh, you got a double hand.
Are these all
I got a blue
for A, B,
line.
C, D?
yeah, perfect, there'll be 3, see, there's 3, yes, thank you. So, my recommendation is, you go 4A. How about 4A for the big one, you keep that simple? I'll let everybody get them first, hold on.
I do.
John, slow.
Number 4.
He's got a double handful, so I blew mine.
Didn't you say
Yeah,
number 4?
I got my game now.
Yeah, I'll label them for you, give me one minute. Let everybody get them.
4A, right?
Okay, so you got 3 pieces of paper. This big one here is
I didn't forget you.
4A.
My arms aren't long enough.
Okay. This color one, let's make that 4B, the one that's got all colors on it. Okay, perfect. And then the last one will be 4C, right?
Which last one? I'm getting the
You've
number.
got 3 pieces.
This is, I gave you the last one first. 4C has got the red.
Well, we already made that 4.
Did we?
You want us to put?
Well, just put a
on
C
it?
next to it. Put a C
This
next to
one.
it.
Yeah.
That's 4C.
I had the 4C.
Okay.
Sorry about that. You guys can't even go in order.
Should have brought your secretary along.
Oh, that would have been too easy.
Which
All right.
one should we have in front of us?
4A. We'll go in that order, okay? So 4A, the purpose of 4A, because the summary is there, 4A, if you flip over the page, and forget the first page for a minute.
Can you wait a minute till you get it?
Sure. Sorry about that. We're looking at the big sheet of paper. So your secretary's not doing too good either?
You wanna hire me?
Sounds like you need to, huh?
All right, everybody good? No?